Largely out of serendipity, my career has, I think always tended in this direction. I started at the National Security Agency in the mid-1980s doing what we would have called in those days cryptology, but largely exploiting networks or defending networks of interest. That naturally grew into cyber, and so I think I've been in the cyber business for the better part of 30 years. Most recently, I taught cybersecurity at the U.S. Naval Academy, and I think we're doing a really good job of that at the Air Force Academy, so that's a well-known story. But also served on something called the United States Cyberspace Solarium Commission, recommended a broad strategy as to what we should do in and through cyberspace to achieve our national objectives. As a byproduct of that, that commission recommended that we have something called a National Cyber Director. Having been a party to recommending it, I found myself on the receiving end of that pass and got a call in March of, would you take that job? And so I couldn't say no. It's one of those moments when you say, there's no statute of limitations on the oath of office, and so yes is the right answer. Well, cyber is inherently a team sport. If you think about what cyberspace is, it's a domain of interest. It might not be independent of the air and the space and the other domains, but it is a domain of interest. If you don't understand it, if you don't study it, if you don't understand how it's constituted and what happens inside of it, you're condemned to be befuddled by it or perhaps at risk because of it. And the dimensions of that cut across not just technology, which is the visible thing, but we have to make sure that the people are fit for purpose in that space. They're on the front lines. And we have to make sure the doctrine, roles and responsibilities are fit for purpose. At the moment, none of those are fit for purpose. And the sense of the Congress and this administration was that required leadership. We need to reframe what is believed to be possible and appropriate. So I'm a principal advisor to the President on cyber matters. This is a strong priority for the President, for the administration. There's a high degree of delegated action and some initiative that we simply undertake consistent with the larger strategy. I had a pleasant surprise or two. I think that there's, on the part of the Congress, it's not bipartisan, it's nonpartisan. Every congressman, every kind of senator that I meet is all in terms of, what does it take in terms of authorities or resources to get this right for the nation. Pleasant surprise that the private sector is leaning in. We have a summit here at the White House about what do we do as a group, right, to collaborate, integrate, to push back on this threat, to essentially achieve our aspirations in cyberspace. And the unpleasant surprise is that the threats grow by the day, right? That we have nation states who hold us at risk. I think we know well the story of Russia, but they're not alone. We have criminal activities that hold us at risk. And we're not sufficiently resilient and robust for them to be deterred because we're a hard target. We're not actually doing the proper job necessary to actively defend those spaces. We, in many cases, don't know what's happening on those systems. First and foremost, our dependence on what they might describe as the internet, or what I often say is digital infrastructure, is one where strategic matters of importance hang in the balance. Not just your personal services, but critical services, electricity, your ability to access health systems, national security of a much more severe sort, right? All hang in the balance if we don't get this right. Two, this is as much a people issue as it is a technology issue. And every one of us has a role to play in making sure we get this right. Every one of us could find ourselves on the front line of the next cyber skirmish, and often will. So you don't need to be a target to be a victim in this space. And then finally, I would say that we need to think of this as a collaborative or an integrative kind of experience, as opposed to each of us does our jobs alone, defending in our own little stovepipes. Because at the end of the day, we want to make it such that if you're a transgressor in this space and you're ruthlessly cutting across the jurisdictions that sometimes govern who does what, you're going to have to beat all of us to beat one of us. That's a different approach to private-public collaboration than we might have had in other domains of interest. The U.S. military still has the responsibility to defend the United States against all kind of foreign perils, but many of those perils show up in the United States. And that means that we have to have a collaboration between heretofore kind of foreign activities that we would undertake and domestic activities we would undertake. You're not going to do that by subordinating one to the other. You're going to have to do that through a collaboration between the two. And so it's really, really interesting to be here at this moment because we do have the tools necessary to push back, to properly defend ourselves. It's not that we're going to shoot our way out of this. We have to make ourselves resilient and robust. We have to actually actively defend these systems of interest. That's a human activity. And we do have to align actions to consequences. If we can do all of those things, then I think that we can achieve our aspirations in cyberspace. That's the most interesting thing of all, is that the means for our success is in our grasp. am optimistic. I've been optimistic since I showed up for Dooley Summer, right? And so, every day might not be kind of full of happiness and joy, but you wind up at the end of the day thinking that you did something for a good purpose and that there's going to be traction at the end of the day.